Welcome to the Spiritual Dance Podcast, a virtual space for creative souls discovering how to move in sync with the rhythm of spirit. I'm your host, Carla White Crow, also known as the Dancing Oracle. In this podcast, I share openly about my journey of weaving together my two primary passions, spirituality and dance. My intention is to encourage and inspire spiritual seekers in pursuit of a more embodied form of spirituality, as well as provide insight and tools for those seeking to expand their creative edges in service to the world of spirit. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Spiritual Dance Podcast. If this is your first time listening, I want to give you a quick rundown of what I've covered so far, in case you want to go back and get caught up before listening to this episode. So, in my first 3 episodes of this podcast, I gave you an introduction to my show, my life, and my work. I talked about my history with dance and spirituality and how I wove those things together. I also talked about my journey into and out of evangelical Christianity and what my spiritual path looks like today. And then in episodes 4 and 5, I offered a thorough foundation for what spiritual dance is, and I gave you some ideas for how you could incorporate it into your own spiritual path. In my next couple of episodes, including this episode, I'm going to go deeper into the particular area of spiritual dance that I would consider to be my primary focus. This month, I'm going to be sharing about a topic that is not only one of my favorite things to teach on, but it is also an essential component of my signature offering, dance divination. Before I can talk about dance divination, I need to first address one of the foundational concepts for that practice, which is elemental dance magic. This is a topic that really deserved its own episode, and so that is what I have in store for you today. For those of you eagerly awaiting my episode on dance divination, don't worry, it's coming next month. So let's just dive right in, starting with my working definition for the phrase elemental dance magic. Elemental dance magic is the practice of attracting and utilizing elemental power in a kinetic manner in order to bring about a desired change. It is a type of embodied ritual where we can alchemize the energy both in and around us in order to cultivate a relationship with the natural world and align with our highest potential. That is a pretty hefty definition. So I am going to go through several of those words and phrases in greater detail, starting with the elements. I once heard the elements referred to as the architecture of the universe, and I think that is such a beautiful description. I have often referred to them as the building blocks of our natural world. When I use the word elements, I'm referring to earth, water, fire, and air. These 4 categories help us to clarify their varying energetic signatures and develop a system of correspondences for deeper understanding. I also believe that each of those energetic signatures can function as a portal that connects us with the unseen realm, expanding our consciousness and creating opportunities for energetic exchange. One advantage of working with the elements is that they offer us a system of already well-defined symbols, patterns, and energetic characteristics that are fairly easy to understand. But this can also lead to oversimplification. In reality, the elements are an incredibly complex, detailed, and in-depth system for understanding the mysteries of the universe. If we think about the elements in their physical form, that is such a small percentage of what they can represent, the power they hold, and what they can teach us. There are so many benefits to working with the elements, Still, my favorite thing about them is that they are not necessarily tied to a specific path, culture, or spiritual belief system. One of my most important values is making spiritual dance accessible to as many people as possible. With the elements, it's pretty easy to find commonality regardless of your background because they are all around us, both within and without. When looking at other esoteric systems and practices such as astrology and tarot, you'll find that the elements are a key component of those systems as well, because our world is comprised of them. It is a primal language that can be understood by anyone and everyone. The next word in that definition that I want to look at is dance. In episode 4, I talked at length about how I define dance. But to recap, dance is movement that one initiates and executes in the body with conscious intention. It is creative, goal-oriented, voluntary, and often outwardly directed. Elemental dance is when that outwardly directed kinetic energy conveys information about the properties or the medicine available to us through earth, water, fire, and air. When talking about the elements, many people will run through a list of correspondences to help others understand the differences between each of the elements. In elemental dance, I teach correspondences through the lens of dance, movement, and kinetic energy. My students learn how to feel and express elemental energy in their physical bodies through various shapes, sequences, dynamics, modalities, rhythm, speed, and the use of space. I offer a thorough framework for understanding and exploring the relationship between dance and the elements, but I also encourage students to develop their own correspondences over time because in my experience, correspondences can be very personal. So now let's talk about the word magic. Deep down, I love that word, and I feel incredibly connected to it. But if I'm honest, I have a complicated relationship with that word because of religious trauma. To this day, every time I use the word magic, I still have this nagging fear that I'm going to get struck by lightning or something. Years of evangelical conditioning taught me that magic was evil, and I've spent an enormous amount of time and effort working to undo that mindset. At its core, magic is simply the process of shifting energy towards a chosen outcome. It is the act of redefining and recreating your reality. And to me, dance is magic. When I go out dancing with my friends, the moment I step onto the dance floor, I begin to embody the way that I want to feel. I want to have fun, release stress, and express my inner fire. So I move in a way that embodies those intentions, and suddenly I'm a force to be reckoned with. In a dance performance, I am often sharing a story with my audience that can help them to see the world differently or put them in touch with feelings or energy that they were unable to conceive of before. In that instance, my dance helped them to redefine their reality by illuminating what was previously unfelt or unseen. Dance, in and of itself, has the ability to transform our perspective, change our mental and emotional states, shift the atmosphere, and impact everyone or everything in close proximity. I also believe that with conscious intention, the effects of our dancing could ripple out far beyond our sphere of influence in ways that we may never know or understand. Elemental Dance Magick teaches us how to embody the unique attributes of each of the elements in order to attract and utilize the power they hold. We can then express that power in a focused and creative manner that aligns with our goals. When we incorporate the qualities, structures, and organizational principles of the elements into our physical bodies, we have the power to amplify that energy. This practice helps us to refine the process we use in our rituals, ceremonies, or other spiritual activities, and accelerate our progress towards our desired outcome. It is also a powerful tool when working with the healing arts. I do want to quickly address the spelling of the word magic. I use the letter K at the end as that is the tradition I was trained in when I began studying witchcraft. Aleister Crowley is often credited for adding the K in an effort to differentiate between stage magic and energy. Magic with a K refers to the art of utilizing natural forces to bring about change. Magic without a K refers to a form of entertainment, like going to a show where someone pulls a rabbit out of a hat. One spelling is not right or wrong. They are referring to two completely different things. For me personally, magic with a K describes a very sacred process of co-creating with the natural world in order to redefine my reality. In previous episodes, I've talked about how my connection to the elements was what awakened my spirituality as a child. They have been a guiding force for me for as long as I can remember. If I feel depleted in any way, they are what I look to for renewed energy, inspiration, comfort, and strength. But it wasn't until my early 40s that I started intentionally working with them in a spiritual manner. Through my exploration of witchcraft and other earth-based spiritual practices, I fell back in love with the elements and developed an intimate and nourishing relationship with them that fuels every area of my life. A big focus of my life over the last 5 years or so has been about honoring a balanced, energetic exchange in my relationships. And I'm not just referring to human connections. I view my connection with the elements as a symbiotic relationship. I spend time with them, study them, and put effort into getting to know them, much like I would with a human. Say, for example, you wanted to deepen your connection to fire. I would light a candle and spend a good deal of time meditating on the flame, taking note of the way it moves, the way it expands and contracts, the shapes that it makes, and any sounds or sudden changes. I would also tune into what is happening in my body while watching, logging any feelings, thoughts, or parts of my body that seemed activated. Then I would ask the flame for wisdom and insight and give myself plenty of time to write and process and reflect. This is a practice I try and do regularly with each of the elements. You should see the speed with which I run outside whenever I hear the wind pick up. Like any human relationship, the more you invest, the more you receive. In addition to spending time with the elements, I try to give back whenever possible. If I call on the elements in my spiritual practice, I make sure to, at the very least, offer a few words of gratitude in return. If I'm in nature and I feel like I have permission to take a rock, a feather, a plant, or some other natural object, I try to always leave a small offering in return. I think you could spend a lifetime learning from the elements, and that well would never run dry. And in my opinion, I don't think you can fast track that process. It takes time, dedication, and commitment. Next, I'm going to go through each of the elements one by one and share some of the notes I've taken about them over the years. I'm not going to go too in depth because this is a big part of my upcoming book, but I do want to give you a few examples of what it would look like to awaken these particular energies within your physical body. And side note, I believe we are all capable of accessing all the elements within ourselves. If you are someone who has studied your astrological birth chart, you might have discovered, for example, that most of your placements are water. That doesn't mean that you are lacking earth, fire, and air. Each of us has all 4 elements somewhere in our chart, even if there are no celestial bodies placed in those areas. In the previous example, that would mean that water energy comes more easily to you, but you can still strengthen your fire, earth, and air energy by embodying their energetic qualities. This is a beautiful and powerful method for restoring energetic balance within. As I read through my descriptions and kinetic correspondences for each of the elements, you may want to close your eyes if you can do it safely. Please don't do this while you're driving. And treat this as a short meditation, tuning deeply into how all these words feel in your physical body. Feel free to hit pause if you would like to find a more comfortable position. You can also return to this portion over and over again for continued reflection. You might even want to start moving your body after listening, and I highly encourage that. I would also recommend journaling about your experience afterwards as well. Earth. Earth energy is protective, stabilizing, and anchoring. It connects us to our ancestors and calls us inward so that we may know. The element of earth will help us meet our physical needs for survival, nourishment, a strong foundation, and the structures that support our lives. It represents our potential, fertility, and transformation. Earth is a lunar type of energy that connects us to our innermost world, illuminating our material needs so that we can build security and create safety. Movement that embodies the energy of Earth is slow, regimented, structured, and contracting, expressing concise shapes and clear boundaries while also grounding us to this reality. Water. Water is a descending force. It seeks to occupy the lowest plane of reality. It can carry us to a place of surrender, pulling us into an exploration of our deepest feelings and desires. Water can be soothing and peaceful, but also a force of destruction. It takes the shape of its surroundings and can also change the shape of its surroundings. Water dissolves boundaries so that we can feel, express, intuit, and flow. It cleanses to renew. This lunar element represents our subconscious, as well as life's deeper mysteries, and invites us to connect with the world we cannot see with our naked eye. Movement that connects us to the energy of water is soft, fluid, and cyclical, offering shapes that flow in and out of one another with grace and ease, mimicking the ocean's tides. Fire. Fire represents our life force, resolve, desire, and purpose. It transforms our will into conscious action and expresses our longing to be seen and felt. Fire is an upwardly directed force that generates light and heat. This energy is always rising as it attempts to occupy the highest plane possible, purifying and burning away any distractions. Fire is instinctual. It doesn't think about how to burn, it just burns, unafraid to take up space. This solar energy helps us to harness our personal power and align with our soul's mission. It teaches us to redirect powerful emotions and counteract negative influences. Movement that connects us to the energy of fire is strong, bold, angular, percussive, and expansive, compelling us to rise up and out so that we can push past our perceived limitations and overcome any obstacles. Air. Air represents the power of thought and communication. It whispers insights and inspiration carried on the wind. Air energy provides us with creative thoughts, while simultaneously sharpening our intelligence and fine-tuning our discernment. It helps us to sort and sift through different ideas and perspectives in search of the truth. Movement that connects us to the energy of air is swift, precise, detailed, and expressive. It expands in all directions, traveling far and wide. Air can be concentrated in the arms and hands with intricate gestures. It also soars through the intentional use of breath and sound. We can call on the power of air to help with problem solving, manifestation, clear communication, releasing attachments, strengthening our psychic senses, and cultivating hope. Each of those descriptions provides ideas for how to work with the elements on an energetic level, but we can also work with the elements in their natural form, even incorporating them into our dance practices. I often dance with fire, swirl and sway in the water, twirl about with the wind, and move with the trees. I also love working with a wide variety of elemental props to add another point of connection and focus to my work. Again, the idea here is to learn all we can about the elements so that we can embody their wisdom and utilize their medicine. I want to briefly mention the fifth element, which I refer to as spirit, though others may use the term ether or quintessence. I believe spirit is the source of the four elements. I do teach on the fifth element in my classes and workshops as it is an essential component of my work. But I decided not to cover that topic today because I feel I will be talking about it at length in my next episode. What I will say is that, to me, the fifth element embodies the action of rising to source. It can also be seen as earth, air, water, and fire coming together in harmony to create a unified energy. My favorite exercise for engaging with spirit is flocking, and I went into great detail about that process in episode 2, so be sure to check that one out. At this point in my life, my connection with the elements is really the foundation of my spiritual path. I call upon them to help me harness whatever energy is needed in my work and in my daily activities. For example, if my intention is to create stability, then I will work with the earth element. That could look like dancing on or near the floor in nature if possible, moving slowly and repetitively, pulling energy inward, and focusing on movements that build, strengthen, and set boundaries. If you would like to begin building a connection with the elements, my first suggestion would be to just spend time with them. We can learn so much from the natural world. Sometimes we just need to shift our perception. If you can't be with a particular element, then maybe try visualizing them, studying them with your mind's eye. Another helpful activity I did when I was first starting down this path was to create an altar for the elements. These days, I try and incorporate each one of the elements into all of my altars. I also have a special altar dedicated to the water element, because that is the main energy I'm focused on cultivating in my life at this moment in time. My last piece of advice would be to make sure that you get clear and set an intention before doing any kind of magical work. I cannot overemphasize how important this is. I believe that Spirit longs to help us, but first we have to know what it is we want. Take time to really think about your desired outcome. This will also assist you in deciding what element or elements you need to call on, as well as selecting the right tools and activities for your sacred work. If you are interested in learning my elemental dance magic techniques, make sure you're on my mailing list so you can be notified of my upcoming workshops and courses. You can also book an embodied coaching session with me where I can design some customized movement sequences that help you achieve elemental balance. I also share a lot of information and short videos on elemental dance through my YouTube channel and social media accounts. And again, I will be discussing this topic at length in my upcoming book and online course titled Dance Divination, Movement that Illuminates the Mysteries of Spirit. You can find a link in the show notes to access the pre-order and waiting list for those things. That is everything I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here and supporting my work, and I will chat with you all next month. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would greatly appreciate a positive rating and review. This helps others find me so that I can support and inspire as many humans as possible. If you would like to learn more about my work, please visit www.thedancingOracle.com. There you can book an intuitive reading or embodied coaching session and find out about my upcoming events. You can also sign up for my mailing list to be notified of my upcoming course and book launches on the topic of dance divination. Until next time, be well, friends, and I will see you in the next episode.